Hello and welcome to the presentation for quality education in regards to the United Nations 17 goals. We're going to be focusing on quality education in 3 specific countries around the world where they just are not meeting the requirements to be considered a healthy country when it comes to education. What exactly is quality education? The United Nations strives to ensure inclusive and quotable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. This is so crucial because without interference by 2030, 84 million children and youth will be out of school, and 300 million students will lack the basic numeracy and literacy skills needed. The following campaign outlines and addresses Afghanistan, Nigeria, and the United States who are not meeting at least one of the targets within the United Nations goal of quality education. These targets being free and equitable education, equal access for men and women, and for all children to have access to quality education. What exactly is quality education? Take a look at today is Afghanistan. The United Nations What exactly is quality education? Take a look at today's Afghanistan. The United Nations The first country we will take a look at today is Afghanistan. They have a population of 41 million people, which does make them the smallest country we will look at today. Since the Taliban overthrew the elected government in 2021, this has become an extremely hostile environment, and it gives the country a global freedom score of 6 out of 100. So it's very hostile. It's not considered a free country or a safe country. Once the Taliban overthrew the government, an unelected cabinet was installed called the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, or the IEA for short. The IEA is exclusively composed of Taliban members and they do not tolerate opposition. When it comes to the social aspect of Afghanistan, we have seen a growth of drug trafficking, arms trade smuggling, just to continue to fund the Taliban's need for money. This shift in the country's leadership has caused many civilians to suffer, and they continue to live in fear and poverty. The media is heavily monitored by the Taliban, and 84% of female workers have lost their jobs in the media following the Taliban takeover. Social media is not very popular in this country due to the Taliban's constant watching of these accounts within their country. In 2022, women were ordered to wear clothing with only their eyes exposed in public. They were also instructed not to leave their home without a chaperone. This was a major change for women within the country. When it comes to the religious aspect of the country, 85% of civilians consider themselves Sunni Muslims, 7% are Shia Muslims, and under 10% are Hindus, Sheikhs, Baha'is, and Christians. The Taliban promotes Sunni Islam and the interpretation of the Hanafi school of Sunni Islam. The government organizations have persecuted religious minorities in order to promote Sunni Islam. Now let's get to know an example of a citizen living in Afghanistan. This is Nazrin. She's a 14-year-old girl. Nazrin is one of an estimated 2.2 million girls currently banned from education in Afghanistan, and this occurred following the Taliban takeover. Now, before the Taliban, Nazrin was an extremely high-spirited girl. She enjoyed reading. She wanted to become a teacher. She was just generally passionate about life. However, after the Taliban takeover, Nazrin will now marry a man her family picked out on her 15th birthday. And this average age of marriage did significantly drop after the Taliban. So the average age for child marriage used to be 19 years old. Following the Taliban takeover, that age dropped from 19 for girls to 14. So Nazrin is a year older, or will be a year older when she marries, but that average has dropped to 14. Once she gets married, she will move in with her new husband's family. She will assist her mother-in-law with household chores. She will be banned from educational materials like reading, and she will have to subdue her personality as to not embarrass her family. Nazrin lives in one of the most underdeveloped areas in Afghanistan, so she does experience this very strict lifestyle that the Taliban has enforced. The next country we'll take a look at is Nigeria. They have a population of 218 million civilians. This makes them the second largest country within our campaign. They are a culturally diverse federation composed of 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. The All Progressives Congress Party, or the APC for short, controls the executive branch of the government. Now, Nigeria does face a kidnapping and robbery problem along the northwest of the country and terrorism in the northeast. The advocacy groups have begun to fight for reform towards a better environment for civilians. So while this isn't as hostile as a country as Afghanistan, they are facing problems along those areas of Nigeria, and they are fighting for reform. When it comes to religion, 50% of Nigerians are Muslim, 40% are Christians, and under 10% are indigenous religions. So these are the people who are living in the rural tribal areas of Nigeria. When it comes to the culture, Nigeria consists of 270 ethnic groups, and over 370 languages are present throughout the country. So communication is a very, very large part of this campaign, ensuring that we are reaching all of these groups of people and making sure that the languages we present are relative to those areas. The culture is a blend of inherited tradition and imported ones. Whether in urban cities or rural villages, family is the central core of this culture. Funerals, births, and weddings are highly valued. But best of all, food is a very important part of Nigerian life. Food will vary throughout the country, and it's a perfect example of the carrying cultural influence throughout the country. Our next civilian example is Adora Adebayo from Nigeria. She is 32 years old. She loves to spend her time basket weaving and singing with the women in her village. She also enjoys teaching her children the traditional dances of their village. She is a part of a traditional community who feels the women are best suited to bear children and oversee their home. Her husband works as a farmer, but because they, like most people in their village, are illiterate, he uses an outdated method of farming. Adora lives in a rural village in South Nigeria with her husband and 6 kids. The closest school is a 2-hour walk from their home, so Adora does keep her children at home with her. This is a very big problem in Nigeria. Many children are kept home because of either the distance or a security problem, or they just feel like school is not relevant. 10.5 million children in Nigeria are currently not enrolled in school. Our next civilian example is our example citizen. Moving on to our largest country, the United States, with a population of 333 million civilians. The United States government is a democracy. It's made up of 50 states with 3 branches, the legislative, executive, and judicial. Under the Constitution, all powers not granted to the federal government are reserved for the states and the people. So this makes it the freest of the countries that we have looked at today. When it comes to a social aspect of this country, from childhood, citizens of the United States are taught the importance of being self-sufficient. They mold their own choices. They have the freedom to pursue their own definition of happiness. When it comes to the culture of the United States, it's long been described as the melting pot of the world. It represents so many countries and cultures from across the world, and it is the 3rd largest country in the world as well. The United States culture may feel familiar, yet different to tourists as they visit, because it has a shared value, because it represents shared values, food, fashion, and slang that are influenced from all the cultures represented within this country. It is one of the most diverse religious spaces in the world. It is 46% Protestant, 21% Catholic, 23% identify as unaffiliated from any religion, and our smallest groups, we have 6% Jewish and 2% Muslim. Our example citizen from the United States is Devontae Abrams. He is a 16-year-old high school student from my hometown of Birmingham, Alabama, where he attends a highly ranked school on a full-ride scholarship for basketball. Devontae's family cannot afford to help him pay for college like many families in the United States, and Devontae wants to take out as small of a loan as possible for school. He feels an immense pressure in high school as his best option to attend college or pursue higher education is to attain a scholarship from basketball. Devontae transferred from his inner city school after he achieved a full scholarship to a college preparatory high school to play basketball. Now, Devontae feels this immense pressure because the average student in the United States currently takes out $37,000 for higher education. Moving on to the goals and objectives for our campaign, we will start here with Afghanistan. The objective of this campaign in regards to Afghanistan is to establish contacts within rural Afghanistan communities who can act as information carriers to women, as well as supply them with seeds, clothing, and knowledge. The goals of this campaign is to create a network of support for the women in need of information or supplies regarding agriculture, and keep accomplishments by women in educational settings to combat this narrative put out by the Taliban that it's dangerous for women to be in education. For Nigeria, our goals in the campaign are to ensure education is included as urban governments dictate priorities for their yearly budget. This is going to help combat that corruption we see in Nigerian governments. We want to also improve the exceedingly low illiteracy rate within the rural communities in Nigeria. And lastly, promote security in schools where kidnapping by armed forces is prevalent. The objectives within the Nigerian campaign is to network with city council to keep education in front of them. Also, distribute primary level of education materials to rural communities. And lastly, to advocate for a security allocation to be included in the education portion of this budget. A quick disclaimer about Nigeria and Afghanistan. These two countries do not have goals that require set timetables because these countries' campaigns will need longer stretches of time in regards to the safety of civilians. These timelines are adaptable and they are monitored to ensure that the campaigns don't draw the eye of armed forces in Nigeria or the Taliban in Afghanistan. This way we can ensure that safety is our top priority for the civilians within these areas. For the United States, the objectives are to host workshops with graduating seniors and incoming freshmen where they can utilize resources to prepare them for the financial decisions coming their way, and to utilize social media to energize the locals and promote these workshops on campus. For our goals, we want to prepare incoming freshmen on how to efficiently take out student loans, and we want to educate graduating seniors on proper loan repayment strategies to help preserve their financial health. We also want to encourage the universities and colleges to promote scholarships and grants to help alleviate the amount of loans that students are going to require. The strategies and tactics of our campaign are crucial. We want to make sure that we're not only efficient, but we are also targeted. In Afghanistan, our strategy is to support the women and girls of Afghanistan by empowering agriculture as a whole through broadening knowledge on the subject, providing a community of shared resources like supplies and clothes, while also prioritizing their safety. These women have been forced into agriculture, so we are going to meet them where they are and support them the best that we can. We're going to do this by creating a continuously expanding network of women who share needed supplies like gardening, gloves, shoes, etc. This group of women is also used to build a shared knowledge and foundation of agriculture skills. Information and supplies can be traded in public areas like markets, and this is in regards to their safety. For Nigeria, we're going to improve the illiteracy and poor attendance rates throughout Nigeria by prioritizing education within government budgets, ensure the safety of the school children while they are attending school, and we're going to cater the information being taught to be relevant for each area. We're going to do this by staying plugged in with the political network within urban areas through peaceful protesting and town halls. This is a crucial step to make change and fight the corruption in the budgeting process within governments. Lastly, for the United States, we're going to educate students on the dangers of high loan rates in early adulthood. This is crucial for their financial health. Students will be taught about repayment options, interest rates, and many more things. In our tactic for the United States, we're going to utilize social media to create excitement around this issue. It's going to help build a foundation for these workshops on campus across the United States. The workshops will also encourage schools to promote scholarships and grants. So all of these build on each other and give us a really great starting place for our campaign. Our theme for Afghanistan when it comes to the messaging in our campaign is to empower women. Our first message is that women have made crucial accomplishments across the globe. By keeping women in the education curriculum, women are not completely wiped out from education and schooling in Afghanistan. Having women's names and actions included in textbooks and education materials conveys to the boys that are still in school that women have safely held a place in education. This directly combats the Taliban's message that has expressed the dangers that women face in school. Our second message is that a community support system for women benefits families living in rural areas by saving money on supply costs, and it allows the women to cultivate a better garden or field. The women in Afghanistan have had almost all educational, social, and community opportunities stripped away from them since the Taliban takeover. Having a subtle support system between women who can share needed tools, extra seeds, and expert knowledge at markets propagates a message that this low-profile support system benefits the family's agricultural standing. This community also benefits the women by providing a social outlet in the limited opportunity that they have been given. Our overall theme for Nigeria is building education, and each of our three messages reflect that. For our first message, we have pursuing a primary and secondary education has many benefits for families and communities, like reduction in violence, increase in general health and safety, and more productive farming. With a wide range of lifestyles from rural tribes to the urban cities, relevancy is crucial when communicating messages through Nigeria. Many of the rural villages do not prioritize education because they don't feel like the information is worth pursuing. So this message will help appeal to all demographics within Nigeria. Our second message, safety is a top priority for schools, and security for these institutions is a necessary addition for government budgeting. A major reason parents withhold their children from school is because of the high rate of kidnapping and violence that occurs in rural areas. Many children are kidnapped by armed forces to join their violent causes, so parents don't risk their children leaving home. If security was available at school, parents could feel at ease about sending their children to school. And our third and final message, attending a college or university is an attainable and exciting goal for students from both urban and rural areas. Many students in rural areas don't see higher education as an attainable goal, but there are many schooling opportunities throughout the bigger cities in Nigeria with a wide range of relevant areas of study. And finally, for messages, we have the United States. The overall theme for this country is accessible, quality education. We have two messages for the United States. The first being student-led organizations make a big impact on student transitions into early adulthood. Student organizations have a high impact on the overall attitude and health of the campus. With a focus on student loan workshops for incoming freshmen and graduating seniors, students are better prepared for managing their financial health in early adulthood. For our second message, administrative staff make small decisions with a very large impact on students. By promoting available grants, drawing in more funding for scholarships, and implementing relevant voucher systems, schools can keep tuition rates where they need them to be while simultaneously improving students' financial standing. So when it boils down to it, how will we know that this campaign was successful? Well, it depends on the country. For Afghanistan, the campaign is going to be considered a success if it can establish a self-sustaining community of women that support each other that lasts even after the campaign workers have left the country. In Nigeria, we want to improve the literacy rates. To improve the literacy rates, we want to see those rise throughout the country each year. And if there is a higher attendance rate throughout rural schools, this will be a successful campaign. In the United States, if there is a lower amount of money taken out through student loans and a higher rate of scholarships and grants redeemed, the campaign has successfully made an impact. One of my personal favorite quotes is that a well-oiled machine will run itself. I heard this quote in my undergraduate program in regards to a marketing campaign, and I think it's the best example of a successful campaign. Once the campaign is done, if the overall goals and the overall objectives have taken root and made a change, that campaign is successful. To round us out today, we have our overall campaign budget. So for Afghanistan, our total budget was $1 million, which is the same for Nigeria. We did bump it up for the United States. The United States is going to have an overall budget of $1.5 million just to cover all of the costs since this is a bigger country. This budget is broken down into market research that will need to be done ahead of time. We have travel costs for our team to travel to the different countries. We have the salaries included in the budget as well. And this does include security personnel for these dangerous countries as well. We have events and community enrichment. This is a really crucial part of the campaign. This is going to include all of the marketing materials, the printouts. This is going to include the materials that we are distributing within the countries as well. And this also includes setup for the workshops for the United States. When it comes to the actual digital marketing for this campaign, I've broken it down into HubSpot, Adobe Suite, and email marketing. These are only going to be relative in certain countries. For example, we're not really going to use these for Afghanistan just because there's not a need for them. Afghanistan does not use technology the same way that the United States does, so the United States is the bulk of the budget here. We do have some extra money left over after the budget. So for Afghanistan, we were under budget for about $15,000. And then for Nigeria, we were under around $4,000. Now in the United States, we were under around $43,000. This was intentional, and this is to be used for an additional workshop coordinator if needed. So that can be adjusted throughout the campaign. Thank you so much for joining me in this discussion about quality education and for viewing all of my slides and hearing these ideas and how it can make a huge impact in these countries. Listed on this page are just the references that I can provide on how to learn more about this information and where I got a majority of my data from. And thank you so much for your time, and I hope this made an impact on you as well.